Hello and welcome back to the Horror Hour, the show where we discuss, debate, and disagree on all things horror. I'm one of your hosts, George, and today I'm joined by my fellow co-host, Yutaka.
Hello.
And today we're doing something that I can't believe we haven't done, and I can't believe wasn't my idea, considering it's my favorite subgenre. But I have to give it to Yutaka for saying, "Hey, should we do this video?" And I was like, "Oh my god, yes, of course we should." If you haven't already told by the thumbnail and by the title of this video, we are going to be telling you our favorite found footage movies. For those of you who don't know, a little bit of as I said, it's my favorite subgenre. I love it so much. I could watch them all day, and I'm super excited to see what Yutaka's got on his list and how it differs and compared to my list. And if there's anything that maybe isn't that's on his list that I think, oh shit, well, I would be surprised if there's anything on your list, Yutaka, that I haven't seen, but I'll be interested to see where your head's at when it comes to what you envision as amazing found footage. So I believe we both have 10. Is that
and
correct?
One honorable mention.
I do have 2 honorable mentions, but I'm going to say one as quick as possible because I just need to put it in there. So what we're going to do is we are going to go from 10 to 1, obviously, but first we're going to list our honorable mentions, and then we will go ahead and we'll do it going down the list, both for 10s, 9, 8s, and so on. So let me get one of my honorable mentions out of the way with, and then we're on par. We're all level with each other. But I'm going to shout out Spree, which is a Netflix original. I had so much fun with this film. I put it as an honorable mention because I don't really class it as horror, because to me it's more comedy. But I thought it was a great film. David Arquette, of course, in it, and Joe Keery, who is Bay. And it came out in 2020 and is directed by Eugene Kotler and co, and also by himself and Jean McHugh are the writers for it. I just think it's a lot of fun. It was a new, interesting way to do a found footage film. It had a great cast, and it was a crazy ride. It's definitely one to watch with friends, and you're just like, what the hell is going on? It's great. But I had to just put it in there because I do find myself going back to it when I'm on Netflix. Think, oh, I'll put this on, because again, the good thing with most found footage films is they're fairly short films, so you can put them on for the most part. True. So yeah, that's my honorable mention that's just going past now. But Yutaka, your honorable mention, what is it?
I mean, it's right behind me. Cloverfield. I mean, it's directed by Matt Reeves, written by Drew Goddard. And I mean, when it like burst onto the scene, like this kind of put also J.J. Abrams on the map, since he was one of the producers. But it's a great found footage film. Really like that. Very well action, the pacing. I love the cast. The monsters are great. Yeah, there's some ambiguity with, the story, but that's kind of part of the fun. It's just a shame it's never gone past. Well, 10 Cloverfield Lane's actually good, but the rest all in that universe are not great. But this one was done very, very well. So it had to be an honorable mention.
I agree. And I remember when the marketing was really good for that film as well. I remember when it came out and they had like they had a website, and it was like you had to try and work, I think it was like working out a code or something. And there was lots of little like hints, and the teaser and the trailers were really good, because in the trailer you never saw we're going to be talking spoilers, right? Because I would assume we're going to mention spoilers in this, right?
I wasn't gonna.
Okay, well, fine. Then I won't mention spoilers. But you don't see in the trailer. In the trailer, you don't see exactly what's going on, which I quite liked. I mean, you obviously know something's happening, but you don't. When you watch, you're like, oh, this is what's happening. So yeah, I agree. It was a lot of fun, and it kind of, I feel like, gave a little. It was a newer, like, blockbustery found footage film that hadn't happened in a while, because a lot of these tend to like be indie or don't reach a full. But this one was quite a blockbuster in that sense.
Yeah.
So I agree. My other honorable mention then is Grave Encounters, which is a 2011 film. This is a really good film, which is basically a sort of ghost adventures show based on this show called Grave Encounters. Head to this haunted old asylum and stuff goes down, basically. And I love me a haunted asylum. I watch a lot of YouTube, like real YouTubers who go to like haunted places and stuff. So that's why I quite like this, because it kind of gave those vibes. 2011, and was written and directed by the Vicious Brothers. Of course, there's Grave Encounters 2 as well, another great film. But the first one for me just like stands on its own and was a really great indie film, and I really enjoyed it. Obviously, there's a lot of those docu-series horror out there. But this one, I just thought for a smaller budget film, did a really good job, and the scares were brilliant. So if you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend it. So that's Grave Encounters. Put it to your list if you haven't had it already.
Yeah.
And with that, then let's dive into the top 10. So Yutaka, number 10, where are we?
Ooh, this is gonna make you mad. That's number 10. But I have Hell House LLC at number 10, written and directed by Stephen Cognetti. Yes, I enjoyed the story. And I loved when we heard about the making of it, but I still have issues with some of the technical aspects and the pacing. So, but it's number 10 on my list. I still say people should see it, but it's not like one where I am, oh my God, did you see this? Holy shit. So.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
George's heart is breaking as I say that.
I don't agree with where you've placed it, but it's your opinion, and I'm happy for you. I will reserve my feelings on this film until, because of course it is in my list, and so I will wait to give my full feelings on that film when we get to that point. Can you guess what one it is? But I want to say my number 10 now. This is a film I don't know if many people are familiar with, and I wasn't familiar. I found it on one of those sites where I'm like, I need new found footage films because, you know, I'm lacking in the ones I haven't seen. This film is called Exhibit A. I think I actually mentioned it back when we did our first top 5 or 3 favorite horror films, and it was one of my honorable mentions. This film is in 2007. It's a British found footage film directed by Dom Rothrow and written by Dom Rothrow and Darren Bender. And it's the story of a young British teenager who gets a camcorder for her birthday and records like daily life's going on within her home. And all I'll say is there is no monsters, there is no supernatural element, but what happens in that house is honestly, I actually haven't watched this in years because it's one of the few films that actually by the end left me like feeling quite sick. It is really good. I think it's actually on Amazon Prime. Don't quote me on that, but I think I saw it on Amazon Prime. So if it isn't, don't tell me off, but it's definitely on streaming, or it's definitely on obviously PVOD somewhere. So I would really, and it's probably cheap. So I would really recommend it probably is because it's not very well known. But I would honestly really recommend watching it. It's a completely different type of found footage movie that has just, it keeps you guessing until the end, and then it just goes full throttle and you're like, oh my God. So Exhibit A, I won't say any more about it. Check it out. That's all I can say. Let's move on to number.
I've not seen it.
No,
so.
I would really, honestly, I would like you to watch it, Yutaka, if you ever have the time. I don't think it's even that long either. I think again it gets like an hour and 20 minutes or so.
Oh, that's not bad.
No, but let's delve into number 9 then. So Yutaka, what's your number 9?
I have Wreck, or okay. I mean, there's the American remake Quarantine, but we're going to talk about Wreck, which was directed by Paco Plaza and Juan Balaguero. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Who also co-wrote it with Luis Verdejo. Yeah, I mean, it's honestly, we all love the fast zombie genre, you know, and Wreck just kind of takes that, like, puts you locked in this apartment building. You've got nowhere to go. You can't leave. And how you're fighting off these freaking zombies. And it's amazing. The lighting, it's super dark. I love just the sheer terror. And I think the actors do a great job. And it's just, I love it. There are some actual legitimate jump scares. And the remake was all right. I liked the cast, but you just can't beat that original.
No, and I think I said this as well when we were recording. I think it might have been with Johnny Birchhold, and we were talking about these films, and I was like, I was more terrified because I was reading the subtitles out, but by the time it happened on screen, but I'd read it, I was like, jeez. So it was like, but no, it's such a brilliant film, and it really, like you say, it had that claustrophobia element to it.
Yes.
And like, you don't need this. I've always said in the past, I don't need a World War Z CGI amount of zombies. You give me a small area with 2 or 3 fast infected zombies, and that to me is more terrifying than a crowd of CGI ones. So I absolutely agree with you on that one. Wreck is brilliant, and the franchise was quite a decent franchise. Wreck 2, 3 Genesis, and then 4 Resurrection. Oh, I forgot. I'm so sorry. But because 4 wasn't that good. But overall, I really enjoyed the story that they were telling through those. So yeah, I agree. But the first one stands on its own as a brilliant, decent film. Okay, my number 9 is called The Last Horror Movie. It's another 2003 British horror film directed by Julian Richards and written by James Handel and Julian Richards. What I want to say real quick is that I really appreciate the amount of that you might see on these lists, the amount of found footage films that are both written and directed by the same person, because of the small things. I just really appreciate that someone, it just goes to show talent. Anyway, The Last Horror Movie it's basically the original Creep, put it that way. And it's basically this isn't a spoiler because it's in the trailers. You will read it everywhere in the blurb, the bio. It's basically about a British serial killer who hires a filmmaker to follow him while he murders innocent people in their homes. And it's so good. It's a lot of fun. It's, again, I like it because it's obviously a small indie film, 2003. It's got that old, it's not vintage, but it's just got an older look to it.
Don't you dare say vintage.
It's got an older look to it. And it just feels a lot more real. Because of course, which is great, as these movies have gone on, they've obviously found new ways to invent themselves with crazy. We won't talk about Paranormal Activity, the last one we watched, that girl, with drones and slow motion. But this one is like one, shitty little camera, and it's really good. You feel like it's watching it. It's got a very interesting opening, and I'd be interested if anybody did watch that film without knowing what it was about, because the opening really fools you to what this film is. And so yeah, if you do watch it, I've kind of spoiled it for you now, but it's what
George does.
That's what I do.
Spoilers, but George, I'm gonna go ahead and spoil.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Listen, anyway, that's The Last Horror Movie. I would recommend it. It is a lot of fun, and I say very dark and very a lot of realism to it. Okay. Well, let's move on to number 8 then, Yutaka. You're number 8.
Well, this is a 2015 film, and it's back in the height of, well, I think it's still somewhat popular, I think it was on Facebook, yeah. But Unfriended, directed by Leo Gabriazzi and written by Nelson Greaves. I didn't think I'd enjoy it, but I think the cast sold it. But I love to see the progression of the story. I love to see the kills, and it was just very good. And obviously there was the other underlying story that they would continually this whole thing was recurring around, and I just really enjoyed Unfriended. I hated the sequel though. Dark Web was dumb as shit.
Yeah, who likes Dark Web? One of those.
I think it was Ben.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This is why Ben's not back.
Yeah, Ben died like the people had Unfriended on one of our Zoom chats. But I remember when that came out, we had to go and see it, and obviously, yeah, it was all about the Facebook thing. And I remember after it being like, oh my gosh, I just want to start doing Skype calls with all my friends now, because that was like, now, Jesus, it's all we do. But then it wasn't as. I didn't feel like it was as done. You didn't be like, hey, let's jump on a Skype call together. But yeah, I agree. That was a lot of fun. It was a really interesting story. And so, yeah, I agree. But I do prefer that to the Dark Web one. Just it's got a better cast, I feel, and the story makes a bit more sense. But that's just me. My number 8 is VHS 2. I really love this film. I don't know if Yutaka's going to kill me to say this, but it's actually my favorite VHS film.
Good film. It's a really good film.
And don't get me wrong, I really do love the original, because I was just like, oh my god, this is such a cool way to do these short 6 stories. But for me, there's something about, again, we're not going to do spoilers, but one of the films within this, like, I think about all the time, and it's the one where a group of people go and interview a certain group of people that live high in their own little society, and let me tell you, like, that's just crazy. Do I need to read out it's directed by Simon Barrett, Adam Wingard, Timo Tjanto, is it? Tjanto?
I just say Timo on
Timo,
that
okay.
one.
Timo, Jason Eisner, Eduardo Sanchez, Gareth Evans, Greg Hale, and I'm sure it's written by a lot of other people as well, but I don't want to spend 2 hours reading out. For those of you who don't know, the VHS series follows basically a group of between 5 or 6 tapes, and it kind of tells a story, each with their own individual short stories, basically, but it is an anthology series. Of course, the latest one came out recently, VHS 94, which did amazing on Shudder. If you haven't already, go and stream it on Shudder. It was their biggest release ever. And it's such a good franchise. But for me, VHS 2, just those stories, all of them together, just really gel. It's probably the one where I feel like I could sit and watch them all together and really enjoy them all together. It's fantastic. So yeah, for me, number 8 is VHS 2. Then let's move on then to number 7. Yutaka, your number 7?
Well, I chose a film that I had a lot of fun with when we participated in the Unnamed Film Festival. And so I chose the 2020 Curse of Aurora, directed by Mayran Torgoli, and who he also co-wrote that with Lana Barron. And I really liked it. I loved the creepy ass setting in that small town, that house. Absolutely not. I know you want to live there.
Yes, I do.
I enjoyed like the cult like storylines and just all these different elements that kind of, just added to the creep factor. I wouldn't say there were jump scares or anything like that, but I was really invested into the characters. And I really liked how they pretty much brought in real life to tell this story. And that's what's really cool, because you're seeing these filmmakers go through the process of making a film, meanwhile going through this haunting, and it's really good.
Yeah, I agree. A really good film. You might be able to see behind me, this side, that little card is from the amazing guys at Cult Cinema. So if they're watching, thank you very much. We really appreciate interviewing them. We did interview them. You'll be able to find it on our channel. We had a great interview. We talked all about stuff like this. So do not forget to check that out while we are mentioning it right now. But yeah, I agree, because it's really great. And as you say, I really like the way that they incorporate the real life story with their own, which again makes it feel a lot more real in tone. So I agree. My number 7 is a 2007 film. What I will say as well is 2007 was a hell of a year for found footage. I've got quite a few on here that are from that time. This is Diary of the Dead, written and directed by the icon George A. Romero. This film I don't know what it is. I just love it. I mean, zombies is another one of my favorite. My favorite subgenres are literally found footage zombies. So to incorporate those two together was just like, oh, this was amazing. And I really wish they would do more. Obviously, you've got Wreck. But, I wish there would be some more of those found footage zombie films. This one is really great. It follows a group of university film students who are out in the woods filming their found footage horror film. Not found footage. It's not found footage. Sorry, it's just a horror film. They have the camera. And a zombie apocalypse just happens out of the blue. And we follow, as it always does, we follow this group of people as they try to survive through the zombie apocalypse. It's got a great cast. And what I like about it as well is it is there is one of the actors basically says in it, the character, that they are creating this film for people to watch. So unlike some other found footage films, there is music and there is other elements that you might find in a normal film, which they explain. So she's basically making this film about the end of the world. She's like, so you don't make the same mistakes that we. It's really good. So it adds those other elements that you don't tend to get in found footage films. So it's more of like a literal, like, hey, here is this documentary on this, rather than just picking up the camera.
Okay. So yeah, that's unique.
It is. Yeah, there's a couple of films I've seen like that, but not many. And I know that I think they're getting more popular. Actually, when we did the interview with Curse of Aurora, they were saying how they would like to do more of that, because it lets you play around more with the film, because obviously sometimes with found footage you can be limited.
Yes, that's very true.
So that is a good way to kind of get around it if you're literally like presenting it as a documentary series of events that occurred. So yeah, my number 7 is Diary of the Dead, and I miss and love George A. Romero. So R.I.P. babe. Moving on then, let's go to our number 6, Yutaka.
So my number 6 was somewhat of a Sundance darling. It still doesn't have a release date, which is bullshit. But it's called Something in the Dirt. It's a 2022 film written and directed by Aaron Moorhead and Justin Benson. And I know you're like, why does that name sound familiar? Oh, I don't know. They might have had something to do with Moon Knight, the next season of Loki, just a little thing. They also have tons of films on Shudder right now, and they are just, oh my God, Something in the Dirt is just pretty much, it's a masterclass in my opinion, but it's really just three filmmakers who are doing this entire thing that really takes place in an apartment complex per se. And it really just about these two guys delving into conspiracy theories. And as they go, the deeper they dive, the more mad they get. And while they're doing this, they're filming this as a documentary, and you don't find out till the end what really happens, but it's crazy. The performances are very tense. The music's great. There's just something about this film that was just so like mind-boggling. Like I would look at it and think, God, there's nothing to this. This is boring. But it's really not. It's just, oh my God. I was so happy that somebody's like, you need to watch this. And so I was like, all right, I'll watch it. And it's just amazing. And again, the fact that it was really just three guys with cameras making this entire film, bravo. And of course they obviously have later VFX and but these three men, so I'd also have to say David Lawson Jr., who is the other part in that. But yeah, it's a wonderful film, and they just really search out their other films like Endless, stuff like that. But yes, Something in the Dirt, which George hasn't seen because Sundance.
Yeah, I haven't, but I'm definitely looking forward to watching it, because if I didn't already, after Yutaka's explanation of that film, it's definitely one
it's so tense
to the list. A new found footage film, yay, because I feel like I haven't had any in a while. But my number 6, Yutaka already mentioned before, it is Wreck 2007. I really love that film. Again, another great zombie found footage movie, a lot more darker and tenser tone than Diary of the Dead. Diary of the Dead does have those elements, but it's quite comical at times, and it's a really good film. But yeah, Wreck is just like, if you watch that, and I know
there's
at one
really
point,
not much comedy with Wreck. Like that is a visceral, like gnarly film. Oof.
And I think it is like classed as one of the, especially before Sinister and all that came out and Host, it was recommended as one of the scariest films of all time. And I do think, like, if you watch that in a darkened room with surround sound, you would quite literally shit your pants. So, but yeah, again, not much more to say after what Yutaka said. Just a great film, and I would really recommend anybody to please watch Wreck before watching Quarantine, just because. And look, you can watch it dubbed if you're annoying like that, but I would really recommend watching it with the original language, because honestly, the actors are just, that main actress, really, she is fantastic. Her scream and like, it's just like amazing. So that is my number 6. But let's move into the top 5. Dun, dun, dun. So Yutaka, what is your number 5?
So I actually just watched this morning to see how I felt about it, because a lot of this individual's films, well, sometimes the twists just don't work. So this is a 2015 film written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan, and it is The Visit. That is, I mean, let's be honest, he had a slew of films for a while where the twists at the end just piss people off, or there's just no payoff. Like the trees are killing people. Nobody cared. Nobody wanted that. So this film, though, was just done so brilliantly. These two kids, they're staying with their grandparents as their mom's on, I think she was on a cruise, a trip. I wasn't focused too much on that. She
was on a cruise.
Even though it's Catherine Hahn and we all love her.
Icon.
But so these kids are staying with these people, and it just gets creepier and creepier, and things start to happen, and it seems like they're kind of going to like having dementia or schizophrenia, and there's just so many like little things that just, some might be jump scares, but man, like the one scene where they're crawling underneath the house, that kind of got me. But the twist at the end was brilliant. It really was. And I had to say, like, wow, I was like, thank God you still got it. And then he made some other films, and I was like, well, now I'm questioning you again. Don't go watch old. But it is what it is. So yeah, my number 5's The Visit.
That's good. Yeah, I enjoyed that film. It was a lot of fun. And again, was an interesting take on fan footage, just like a different change of pace and a different style of film. So I appreciate it. And I thought the cast were great as well. The kids were great. And obviously the grandparents were great. And Catherine Hahn in her small role was also great too. So yeah, I agree. One of his better movies for sure. Maybe not top tier M. Night Shyamalan, but it's definitely up there.
Yes.
So my number 5 is Creep, the 2014 film directed by Patrick Bryce and written by Patrick Bryce and Mark Duplass. This film I found, I think, a couple of years ago on Netflix, and I was just like, oh my God, I found footage. Because when I always skip past it a lot because I thought it was the film Creep that's in the train. Was that British, the horror film? I think it was, or was it American? We went in the like in a train with like a, I can't remember. Anyway, it's not.
Are you thinking of Midnight Meat Train with Bradley Cooper?
No, there's another one called Creep on it. I'm not making up, guys. Back me up in the comments below. But this is Creep 2014 film. Obviously, Mark Duplass plays the main character, and he is obviously, again, no spoilers, but he is a gentleman who is dying, and so he asks a gentleman with a camera to come and film sort of a few days in his life that he wants to show with for his unborn daughter to see when she's born, because he might not obviously make it there. And then what unfolds is just a crazy ass story and you're like, what the hell is going on? But I mean, shout out to Mark Duplass, that character is just probably one of the best like characters in like
so unnerving horror. Like, it's like, oh,
honestly brilliant. And Creep 2 as well, another brilliant film, don't get it wrong. I enjoyed Creep 2.
I didn't.
I hope there's a Creep 3. I think there is a Creep 3. I don't know. Maybe
I don't know. I just didn't like Creep 2, so I'll watch Creep 3 if there is. Just don't know if I want to see it.
That's fine. But yeah, this is Creep 2014. If you haven't seen it, it's on Netflix as well. Second, really recommend it. Go and give it a watch. Mark Duplass is a standout in that role. But let's move on to number 4 then. So Yutaka, your number 4.
Okay, and this is another film I actually just watched this morning. I kind of want to get back into the whole found footage, mindset, since we're going to talk about this, because George knows this is not my favorite genre at all. It's probably one I hate to say I detest the most at times. So if I do love a found footage film, to me, that means like it struck a chord, And I also give kudos to people who do found footage, because a lot of them are so low budget and they have to do magic with what they're given. And so I do appreciate that. This one is The Taking of Deborah Logan, a 2014 film directed by Adam Robitel, who also co-wrote it with Gavin Heffernan. And I absolutely loved this. It is just so good. So good. I mean, like I said, I just watched it, and I think I wish I would have taken down the name of the actress who played Deborah Logan, because wow, she was phenomenal. And I do think that, the mental health aspect that they had in this, and then just, the caretaking, obviously if you're, the kid, you're going to do anything to protect your, grandparents, your mother, any of that. And I just really freaking love this. And there were some legit freaking like jumps, but also there were some really good practical effects.
Yeah.
And I love that. I really appreciate practical effects more than VFX and all that. But not to say there's anything bad with that. I love good practical effects. And there were several scenes within this film where they really went there. And I love the whole vibe. It was never really bright until, well, technically the end. It was very dark, very moody, and just all around creepy. And so I really enjoyed it.
Fun fact, it's my number 4 as well, Yutaka, Taking of Deborah Logan.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Guys, we didn't even prepare these together, so that's why we don't know. I've been curious to see. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, all right.
I mean, I agree with you. Film. So good. Really interested in take on the story, and so many as well, I would say, twists and turns with the story itself, what you think might be happening, and what, a lot of backstory and stuff has been put into this film that again just gives it that extra layer, and again, things that you think may have happened in the past, it may have not happened the way they thought. And it's it's just a brilliant film. Again, the writing of it, the story itself is one probably. This is why it's so near the top, because with some found footage films, sometimes it can, because they're cheaply made. I've said in the past they can be lazy, but
I wasn't gonna say that, but okay.
Not all of them, but it's just like, oh, we've got a camera and there's a ghost.
Stop.
But this one, there really is a brilliant story behind it, and
yes,
it's such a great standalone film.
Kind of heartbreaking too. It like tugs at the
definitely, and it's always I always see it now. It's always up there, which is great to see in those top found footage movies of all time. And so if you haven't seen it, I would really recommend it. It's on Netflix in the UK. I don't know if it's,
and here in the US it's on Amazon Prime.
Okay, yeah. So definitely give it a watch.
It's one to watch, absolutely.
Definitely.
I mean, like I said, found footage, it's not my thing, but this film is just, it's a cut above the rest, and some thing, yeah. I just love it.
It's great. It's great. Well,
it's early here.
Yeah, it is. With that, then let's move into our top three. So, Yutaka, what is your number three?
Oof. All right. This is now technically the scariest film of all time. It just surpassed Sinister, which is also a great film, but not found footage. And this is 2020's Host, which kind of came out at the right time, sadly, during, the pandemic. And it's a horror film all via Zoom call, and it's a seance. Directed by Rob Savage, who also co-wrote with Gemma Hurley, and obviously, I love him, Jed Shepard. And it's just the dedication also when you see the making of this film. So yes, it is creepy, because obviously one thing is when it comes to that, you're all like so focused on the Zoom screens. And so you're trying to see any little thing that might move or something that might happen. But then when things do happen and it has to get physical, it's actually the actresses doing this themselves. They're applying the makeup. They're doing all this stuff. Like, oh my goodness, do you see that? See the Freddies? See that? Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh.
But it's a phenomenal film, and the best way to watch it is seriously dark room. If you can, watch it on your laptop. It gives you a whole nother experience. I'm serious. But Host is just a fantastic film. It was well written, just directed beautifully, and again, kudos to the cast and crew on that film. Absolutely. That is my number three.
Agree. A really good film, and again, brought, like as you say, came out at the right time, and just like took the found footage world by storm. I appreciate it very much. It's a great film to watch, and again, really short, which we love to see, because these days, talking for myself, I have no time to be watching.
My stomach's growling.
Apart from 3 hour, apart from Titanic, I can't be watching anything longer than an hour and a half.
I'm not watching Titanic.
I'm ready for bed.
I love anyway, but Host is on Shudder.
Yes, it is. And of course, they're bringing out their new film, Dashcam, which is coming out. It's been at a lot of the festivals, and it's, I'm excited to see everyone's thoughts on that when that comes out. So if you've seen it at a festival, let us know what you think about it. But if not, let us know.
George has seen it. I haven't yet. Oh, I know. We have the screener. I need to watch it. Shit, that's on me.
Yeah, I watched it with the screener.
That's on me.
I was like... So Yutaka will have watched it. Soon.
I will watch it.
And when it's out fully, we'll definitely do a review and stuff on it as well. Okay, my number three is a film that, again, sort of brought found footage it brought it back into the mainstream again, I would say, and it is probably, what people will remember. There is another film that people remember found footage for, but this film was Paranormal Activity. Originally came out in 2007 a lot of the festivals, but was a worldwide release in 2009, directed and written by Oren Peli. This film, I do believe, really brought found footage back, and I do think if you were to ask somebody like name found footage films, obviously you're going to say the obvious, but I do think this would be one of the tops of their list, because I just think people have heard of Paranormal Activity. I am one of the diehard fans that will die by this franchise, apart from the last two installments, and I love it so much. But the original itself just works brilliantly as a standalone film. Again, just scary, because it's just again, it was, it was made in the director's house, Oren Pella's house. It was I just love it so much. It was just great. And
it put him on the map,
It did.
honestly. It was a very low budget film, took the theaters by storm. And I actually just watched it for the first time this year with George.
Yeah.
Did I love it? No, but I will say though, had I seen it in theaters, I would probably tell you yes, because it's a completely different thing to watch it at home versus if you were in a theater with all these other people, and like I could see that just be chilling and just, oh my God. So yes, I give it mad respect. I wish I would have seen that first one in theaters, but I remember seeing the trailers. I just didn't like the trailers, which that's on me. But it is a good film. It's very well made and well paced.
Definitely. Yeah. It's actually the first horror film I watched in a cinema because
oh wow.
Yeah, because I mean I've watched
young,
loads of horror films at home and things, but this was 2009. I think I was 14, maybe 14 at the time, and obviously it was a 15 here in the UK. It was set about as a 15. And I went with my auntie and uncle, and they were like the people came over to the cinema and they're like, how old is he? And my uncle was pretending to be my dad, and he was like, he's 15, like, he hasn't got any ID and all this. Anyway, then the manager came over and was like, yeah, it's fine, he can come in, whatever. He didn't even care. He was like, yeah, he's with two people who are definitely over 15. And it was such an amazing experience to see it in the cinema. And I always remember the ending, and my auntie being like that and putting her hands over my eyes so I couldn't see it. And I was like, no, what is it? But it was brilliant. And yeah, I would, even if you wouldn't want to stick and watch the rest of the franchise, even though I would implore you to watch most of it because there's such a great story there. I'm just so sad that it got ruined. But just as a standalone film on its own, you could really watch it and enjoy it. And I think watching it at home works as well. I think if you watch it in the dead of night at home, it's creepy because it's set in a house. So, and also shout out to Steven Spielberg, who watched that film and asked, he was the one who got Paramount to sign it on. But Oren Pellin always says that he was a bit sad because they asked him to change the ending to what the ending is, the theatrical ending to the original one. But which works better because of course it then spawned the franchise. The original one maybe could not have done. I won't spoil it if you haven't seen it. But yeah, my number 3, Paranormal Activity, really recommend it if you haven't seen it. And people who don't like it, piss off. So let's go to number 2 then, the penultimate one. We're nearly there. Yutaka, what is your number 2?
This is hard. I've been going back and forth between these two, and George already knows what 2 they are. There's no denying. There's one that, oh my gosh, I am going to go. Oh my God, I'm gonna go with the original Blair Witch as my second. Written and directed by Daniel Myrick and Eduardo Sanchez, who Eduardo Sanchez I think pops up in one of the VHS films as well. But this would be the first found footage film I ever saw in a theater. I remember I saw it in LA. It was funny because it was like an empty theater and one of the seats had like a trash bag on it and it looked like a dead body. So that was already freaking us out the entire time. But I mean, the original Blair Witch obviously kind of was a phenomenon. It put, I feel bad saying it put found footage on the map, but what it really did is it also put like low budget. You could make a good low budget film and it be profitable as fuck, because for the longest time I think this was the most profitable film just because of profit margins alone. But regardless, the other great thing about this, the marketing campaign, that marketing campaign back in the day, you couldn't do that now because of the internet and Google, all that. But back then you couldn't. The way they marketed it, people thought like these three kids were missing, kind of thing. And it was done so well. The story's so good, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful film, and I love it. It's it was hard. I'm probably in my head gonna be like, I should have made that number 1, but you know what? I can't.
Gotta do what you gotta do. And guess what? It's my number 2 as well.
How the fuck that happened?
it happened. That's how.
Wow.
But yeah,
Okay.
Blair Witch is actually also, for those of you who don't know, is in my top 3 films of all time. It's actually my third favorite film of all time. I love it. Again, I love the just like you don't see anything. I think it's great. It's just such a great mood, but yet you're still terrified because you're like
Yes.
waiting for something to happen. And it's not like one of those things, there's a lot of films where you're waiting for something to happen, it doesn't, you think, oh, but with this, it's still terrifying enough that you like it just because it makes your
You still
mind
have that
wander.
payoff at the end because you're like genuinely creeped out.
Agree. And shout out to Mary Brown, who's one of my favorite characters in the whole film. She's creepy as hell. And that woman, I believe, actually I think she was hair and makeup for the film. And she was to do the film, and they just like jumped, and she's like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And she played an amazing role. But because the cast itself just brilliant, and you can really feel their like fear and their anger and stuff. And of course, some of it was real because it was, that is why it still stands out today. And that's why it stands out more for me, is because it's like, I mean, they really did a lot of stuff for real. Like when they're running through the woods and Heather and that are screaming, they're screaming because they were doing shit off screen that we couldn't see that terrified them. So that, in a sense, I don't know. I would be intrigued to see if anyone would try and do that again. Not obviously try and make it realistic, but try and make it more real for the actors, because I just think it paid off so well with this film.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you could still do that. You could get a group of actors and a fan footage and go, okay, this is we're gonna, good luck. Here's like an overview of what you need to do. Let's go. And I think that would be an interesting way for another film to do that, to see if it did work, or if it was just the magic of this film, the time and the cast that really just made it. But again, if you haven't seen this film, like seriously, where you at? But there is just something about being in a tent and hearing the noise outside of little kids playing that just is actually that I remember like tearing up with, like being like, oh my god, this is
creepy,
horrifying. I'm thinking about it now because it just
it still holds up.
Yeah,
it's
agreed.
So well made.
Yeah,
and honestly, I think when people do make found footage, I feel like it's a reference, and if it's not, I'd be shocked. But to me, it's it's probably in my top 20 of all time films. But it's I have a lot of horror films on my list, so but it's definitely one that I think it just stands the test of time, and it's amazing.
It really does. And shout out to Scary Movie as well when they did the skit of it, because that with Gale's hailstorm, because that was just hilarious. It's like, oh my god, Scream and Blair Witch together, iconic. But yeah, okay then. Well, let's go to number 1. I mean, I'm going to be shocked by what your number 1 is, Yutaka, but tell me anyway.
All right. I mean, let's be honest. It's no surprise because I won't shut up about this goddamn film. I love the VHS series as a whole, minus viral. So when VHS 94 was announced, I was very nervous, and let me tell you, it did not disappoint. I mean, it came out just this past year. It's written and directed by Jennifer Reeder, Chloe Okuno, Simon Barrett, Timo, I can't say your last name, I love you both, and Ryan Prowse. And it was phenomenal because it's been a long time, I can tell you, since a film like really like raised. There were actually a couple films this year, but they raised my heart rate, and I could feel like just my pulse, my heartbeat. And Storm Drain was just so claustrophobic, so good, and the story behind it and what it's based on is actually quite hilarious. But I truly did enjoy it. And then Empty Wake is another one, just because I love that nobody knows what a tornado siren is, but that whole scene when the tornado sirens are going off, like my stomach, I was like, oh god, like it just like stomach dropped. It was so good. And then of course there were 2 icons last year in horror. Malignant, Gabriel, let's be serious, that dude trends all the time. He was just at the Met Gala looking fierce. And then of course Harold Ratma.
Such good.
Oh my goodness. From Tales of the Stitch. Does really good work. We'll link it below. But yes, this is Rotman. I'm so happy. But yes, VHS 94 was just truly, it's a phenomenal film. I love to rewatch it. And I just, yeah, it was a great way to revitalize the series. And I know you're like, that's your top, but honestly, I just rewatch it so many times and I just can't stop thinking about it because I had a lot of fun and I was also genuinely terrified. And so for me, well, I love that. That's what I want. Please scare the hell out of me. And Storm Trade, oh God, that really did a number on me. And so yeah, I love VHS 94 so much. But I was going back and forth between that and Blair Witch because I think those are both phenomenal films. And of course, VHS 94 is on Shudder.
It is. And of course, as we mentioned before, it was the most, it was their highest,
their biggest premiere ever.
Yeah, ever. And it is honestly such a brilliant film. And obviously, we were like, of course, really lucky to get a screener for it before it came out. And I was like, we were like so excited, we were like, oh my God. Because I mean, as somebody who's, again, I know obviously I'm not speaking for myself, but obviously I know you tagged as well, who loved like the VHS series from the start. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe it was probably one of the first like big screeners that we got. Yes. We were like so excited for, and obviously we love Shudder for that. So
I mean, oh my God,
we were like,
yeah,
so excited, and it lived up to being like, oh my God, this is great. And I'm super excited to see where the franchise goes now, because this really has like put it in a new direction. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next installment of the franchise and see what it is. It's
same.
It's going to be great for sure. But now it's my number one, which is Yutaka's rolling his eyes because he's probably guessed what the number one is at this point.
Oh my gosh,
it hasn't been on the list. But yes, it is Hell House LLC 2015, written and directed by Stephen Cognetti. This film, it's funny because I literally watched this film 2 years ago during lockdown, and I don't even it's difficult to put into words like what it did to my brain, or like, but it just like shot to the top of top horror movies of all time. Like it's number 2, like top, like it's insane. And obviously it's a personal preference, and Yutaka gave his opinions, and I would never say we might joke about all the time, but I don't know what it is for me. I think because I maybe been through a lull of found footage films where they were all just okay, or like they were like easy watches, whereas this, like, something about it just like captured my attention and grabbed me. And the writing, the story, is fantastic, and it carries on through the rest of the franchise. But the first one is just really brilliant. Do you, Taka? I'm not looking at you. But the first one, the story is so brilliant. Again, like I say, I love having backstory. I love having history within these films that kind of build a world, and this definitely does that. But the cast as well, just so great together. Like they really feel like people, and the acting is brilliant. As I've said in the past, sometimes with found footage they get cheap actors and you can tell, but this none of them on my list like that, but this one specifically really, again, just was a standout for the cast. I really felt like they were a group of friends. If you haven't seen it, a brief overview is basically it is a documentary about an event that occurred called Hell House, which was a haunted house attraction in upstate New York. Is that what you call it? Upstate New York. And basically there was an incident that occurred during that time. And we learn about what that incident was, and we get the tapes, and we find out exactly what happened and how it led to the events. But I just love it. The cast has said brilliant. Writing and directing was fantastic. And of course, we've had Stephen Cognetti and Lauren A. Kennedy on the channel before, who are just so great, a lot of fun. We love them both, and we appreciate that they came on. And Lauren's been on a couple of times, and probably will be a couple more times after that, because we have a lot of fun. But yeah, it's just such a great film. Like, I genuinely make anybody that turns up to my house watch this film if I can. I'm like, hey, random person off the street, let's watch this. Hey, random hookup, before anything happens, let's put on Hell House and see. And then we never get to the next point because they're like, I'm leaving. But that's fine because we watched Hell House. But no, honestly, I can't talk about it enough, and it's a personal preference. I just love it, and I could watch it all the time, and I pretty much do. It is just my favorite fan footage film of all time.
Yeah, it's a film that when we started out, it was one of the few films they forced me to watch, and we gave our scores, and I kind of pissed some people off because I gave it a 5.5, I believe. I
Yes.
can't remember, but I had my reasons, and I'll still stand by them. But I will say again, the writing and direction was great. The acting, I agree as well. I had there were so many technical issues for me, but again, I think, like you said, the story is really good. I don't know about the second one though. That second one was bad. But the third at least wraps everything up. So I was very happy with that. So, but yeah, I think that's not a bad list. I'm shocked that we had some in the same spot.
Yeah.
I was not expecting
2 for
that.
2. And then we had some that Yutaka hadn't heard of. So I'm going to hope that if you take anything out of this episode today, Yutaka, and people at home, out of all the ones apart from Hell House, I would really recommend watching the last horror movie in Exhibit A, specifically for you, Yutaka, but anybody else, if you're wanting to find like just honestly, they are so good, like indie films, and you will leave thinking, especially, I mean, Exhibit A, you will definitely leave like feeling actually ill. So
did I say any that you've never seen? I feel like you probably saw them all already.
read them out like one after the other again.
Why you gotta be like that, sir?
Why you gotta be so rude?
We were this close.
Had an episode with no singing.
VHS 94, Blair Witch, Host, Taking of Deborah Logan, The Visit. Oh, yep, you can't because it hasn't come out yet.
Yeah.
Something in the Dirt.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
And that's that is the only one, yeah, because now you've said it, I do remember those. Yeah, no, Something in the Dirt's the only one, and it's because it hasn't come out yet.
I'm so mad it hasn't got picked up yet. Like almost everything else from Sundance was picked up.
Yeah.
Like it is bizarre because people loved it, and these two are very well known with, rustic films and all that. Oh my God, it makes me so mad. Pisses me off because I want to see it again. Also, it's kind of nice because one of the characters is gay. I mean, it's just...
Well, shout out to the Taking of Deborah Logan as well. We have a lesbian.
That's true too. Yes, I forgot about that. Sorry. But it wasn't like that was like a major storyline. It was just like a side storyline in a sense. But obviously I'm talking about Something in Dirt.
Okay.
Because it literally is only two people the entire film. It is just them back and forth banter and their interactions. And so I just thought that was really cool. But yeah, I'm really mad because I want to watch it again. I do.
Yeah.
I've already seen it like several times when it was at Sundance, but
well, fingers crossed somebody shudder. Come on, do your thing, babe. But with that, then we will say thank you very much for watching. Do let us know in the comments below what you thought of our list, and if you've got a list, drop it in the comments below. We'd be interested to see what you thought. If we've got any matches as well, and anything that we didn't mention that you think, hey, this should be on your list, or if you haven't seen it, we should watch it. I mean, it's probably
we love good recommendations.
Yeah, we do. I've probably seen it, but Yutaka won't have. So let us know in the comments below. And as always, do not forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter. We are at The Horror Hour TV. Of course, we have our merch in the description box below as well. And stay tuned for even more reviews, for more reactions, for more everything. We've got lots coming, as we've said in the past. There's some new exciting stuff coming out, and there's lots of great horror coming later in the year. So do keep an eye out for that. Without further ado, we will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.
Bye.
You have been listening to The Horror Hour. See you next time.